Um, I was trying to go live earlier, and I don't know what was going on. I think it was a browser issue, but we got it fixed, and we're here. Ndewonu, ndewo. Welcome to Ask Me Anything. My name is Derek O'Father-in-law with the Medicine Shell, or Ask Me Almost Anything, because some of you guys get out of hand, so I got to put a limit on it. But this is Derek O'Father-in-law with the Medicine Shell. I teach ancestral spirituality, Igbo cosmology, and culture known as Odinala Ndibo. Odinala Ndibo. And for those of you who are new, hit the subscribe button. I am surprised we already got 5 people in here. Once we get to 10 people, I'm going to go ahead and begin the discussion. So once we hit 10 people, take the link of this, share this with anybody who you know would be interested in the topic. This is Ask Me Anything, or Ask Me Almost Anything. For those of you who are new, welcome, welcome, welcome. So who is all in here right now? I see 5 of you, or 4 are in here. Who is all in here? I say Petty P, aka Peach is the best. Petty P, are you petty? Or is that just the name? Phoenix, and there, good seeing you. Good seeing you. Thank you for being here. Hey, Ada Amadioha, daughter of justice, daughter of sky. Do, 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 do. Always great seeing you. Scotty, ndewo nwanne, ndewo, all love. Hey, coffee, cake, and conversation. Hey, how are you? I am good. I've been having a great day. I had the very bad idea to go and record my video while I was fishing, and there was just a whole bunch of wind, so I just enjoyed the fishing. And yeah, it was good. Me and my mother. Ndewo, Scotty and mother. Ndewo, ndewo. All right, we're at 10. You say, let's go ahead and begin. Again, this is Ask Me Anything with Derek O'Father-in-law. What I'm going to do now is bless the occasion, and then from there we will answer any and every question that you have. Okay? All right, Kaibido. Okikekeru. Alawala. Ala nne mmadụ na nne mmụọ. Ala na-enye ndụ na-enye nke ọma dị n'ụwa. Ala amụrụ mmadụ mụrụ mmụọ. Ala anyị siri bịa, ala anyị si elo. Igwe bụ eluigwe, igwe na-enye ndụ. Igwe ewu ogwu anyị ji aga n'ụwa. Ụmụ gị abịala. Ejikwere m obiọma na-ekele ụmụ ndị eke, ndị orie, ndị afọ na ndị nkwọ. Chukwu obiọma na-ekele ndị mbụ na ndị egede, ndị mmadụ na ndị mmụọ. Ọwụ obiọma ka m ji na-ekele mmụọ na-esoro anyị na mmụọ anyị ga-afụ ebe anyị na-aga. Anyị ji udo aga, anyị ji ogwu aga, anyị ji ọfọ aga, anyị ji uche Chukwu aga, maka anyị na-aga ije Chineke kere ka anyị gaa n'ụwa. Enweghị nke kara Chineke. Ọ Chineke si na a ga-eme ya, ọ ga-adị, ọ ga-eto. Ka ọ bụla anyị tinye aka, ọ ga-adị n'ụwa, ga-adị otu a na eke, n'orie, na afọ, na nkwọ. Ise, ndewo, ndewo. All right, let's go. Someone says Professor Ndewo, or Phoenix says that. All right, Derek, I went down a Hotep rabbit. I went down a Hotep rabbit hole. Some Nigerian dude is arguing that Ethiopia shouldn't be in the African Union because the people from the Horn are biracial. That's his opinion. That's his opinion. I do think a lot of people in the Horn of Africa are African when it's convenient. So yeah, I know what he means. I know what he's saying. But yeah, I don't. That's his opinion. I don't know. I think more than positive, Ethiopia was one of the founding members of the African Union. So I think everybody else should get the hell out of the African Union and leave it to them. It's headquartered over there. The headquarters is in Addis Ababa. So yeah, but that's some Horn of Africans. Most of them are with the cause, that kind of thing. I was making a bracelet for Eshu, and I kept hearing in my ear a chant, Arobin, Arobin. Why was that? And by the way, my parents are Jamaican. By DNA test says that we are ancient Igbo on my mother's side. He said, yeah, I can't tell you why that would be happening. I think that is a very powerful experience, and I think it's obviously not something to take lightly. Perhaps you're being pointed towards Arobinagon rather than Eshu. Perhaps you're being pointed towards Arobinagon rather than Eshu. So that's what common sense would tell me, but I think that's more of a question you should ask like a like a Dibia, or if you're, dealing with Eshu, like a Baba and all them. So, all them. But yeah, don't take those things lightly. Anything that a Dibia, an expert, a guy on YouTube, anything that we can tell you, your own intuition and your own experience is going to tell you a lot more. So yeah, that's my own common sense interpretation. If it resonates with you, then I'd run with it. I'll do my. All right, where are we at? Wise Nze Mazi Derek Kada, little question. Ide Millie, can she reach American shores? So what we'd say is Nemiri, Nemiri. Ide Millie is a specific manifestation of Nemiri. And Ide Millie is a river in near where I'm from. So can Nemiri reach America? Absolutely. Absolutely. Nemiri is and reaches wherever water is and reaches. Some people will tell you some BS like, oh, like you know, let's call it African spiritual affairs don't work outside of Africa. That's absolute BS. That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, absolutely. Nemiri can reach any and everywhere that water is because she is water and water is her. So I laugh because I know what you're alluding to. Nah, no problem. Hi there. That's just my name all for YouTube. I'm Chinyer. Chinyer Ndewonu, Ndewonu. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're not petty. Odemma, Odemma. How does Arobinagun represent? Well said. So Arobinagun is also known as Ogun. Ogun. Ogwu. If you want to really understand Arobinagun, which I'll explain anyway, but if you want to really understand Arobinagun, I have two videos I'd recommend. Ogun explained, Ogwu, and Arobinagun explained. The two of them are kind of twin videos that work well in conjunction with each other. Arobinagun is the feminine element of Agun. Arobinagun is the feminine element of Agun. As the feminine element of Agun, Arobinagun is a member, let's call it that, of the manifest world, right? Arobinagun manifests as trees, most specifically as forests. Arobinagun appears in the form of a woman, usually a stern old woman. Arobinagun can also appear in the form of dwarfs with dreadlocks. Arobinagun can also appear as a tall masquerade, right? Arobinagun is the consciousness of nature. Arubinagun is the consciousness of nature. It is this concept known as Ose, which is like a sentient vibration, sentience, which is in the trees, in the forests, and so forth. The reason Arubinagun has the name Ogun, Ogun means medicine, it means technology, it means science, it means magic, it means alchemy, it means using the human intellect, to work with nature and move nature from one direction to another, right? So Aro in my dialect saying ako, or Aro ako, is also intellect, right? So what happens is if you are an herbalist, if you are a healer, if you are a dibia, mborogon, Arobinagon is going to be one of your guides. I've spoken to a lot of you guys, or is going to be your guide. I've spoken to a lot of you guys, and a lot of people have told me they've had these dreams of these like elder ancestor women appearing or a woman appearing and so forth. I also had, before I started this channel, that's one of the things that caused me to start this channel. I had a dream where an elder woman appeared to me. I didn't learn who it was until like a year and a half ago. This dream happened about 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And she appeared to me and she was just staring at me like real stern and like that kind of thing. And I I was I had without her speaking, I knew I was supposed to look at my palms. And when I looked at my palms, I saw that they were two different patterns. And then I woke up at that point and I understood the message. And that's kind of gave me the green light to start doing what I'm doing now. And I'm very, very happy I listened because that's what it meant, right? So yeah, Arobinago is all of that. If you are interested in knowing more about Arobin, check out the Arobin explain video and the Ogun explain video, right? So, all right, where are we at? A Somali dude agreed with him and said he doesn't want to associate. If you're ever in an internet space and there's like Somalians, you should just leave. It's like driving through a neighborhood and there's just too many liquor stores. If you're ever in a talking space and there's a bunch of Somalians, you have to just leave, especially if they're speaking English. Um, where are we at? Where are we at? Arobinago. Cool. Okay. Do you know anything about Ohafia? Oh, yeah, absolutely. So Ohafia is one of the villages in what is now Abia State. Ohafia has a very, very strong warrior culture, a strong warrior culture. And so a lot of their traditions that are known outside of Ohafia pertained to military and military prowess and kind of like that. There's a dark history to that warrior culture, though. But that's what I know about Ohafia. I'm trying to think of who I know from Ohafia. What else can I say about Ohafia? Yeah, they were a big ally with the Aros during the slave trade era. And by tradition, Aros don't fight. Aro people don't fight unless, like, pushed to the very, 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 very brink. But Aros don't fight. And so the Ohafia people used to do the fighting for them. Ohafia people used to do the fighting for them, right? And then the Aros would provide like wealth and different things like that, and like spiritual XYZ. But yeah, the Ohafia people used to do the fighting for Aro people. After I made my bracelet, I washed it with a few herbs and it correlates. He said, I'll surely wash those. Okay, for sure. Awesome. What's the schedule for What's the schedule? Is today Saturday? You're throwing me off. You made me think I had a longer weekend than I actually. Yeah. No. We went to an event as a family yesterday, and we ended up staying very long. One of my wife's friends stayed and waited for us, and so then her husband went somewhere, and then wouldn't be right for us to go, okay, we got to leave even though you stayed for a long time and waited for us. So we stayed and waited for him, and by the time he got back, I was not going to have the opportunity to go live, so I rescheduled it for Sunday. uh we'll have the medicine Will the medicine class have a textbook? Yes. So the traditional medicine class is starting the last week of this month, the last Monday of this month, and it does come with a textbook. It is a book that I have written. The title is, I think it's just All Traditional Medicine. That's the working title anyway. But it's a good ass book. So yeah, it does come with a book. The book is free. The book is free right now. I'm actually trying to get it published, or I'll be getting it published pretty soon. And then it's kind of like I was inspired by how Kanye West did his I think it was Life of Pablo album, where like he would like he would just like change it in the middle of it existing. So I've been updating the book as the class goes, adding things to it, but I think I'm reaching a point where it's like, okay, it's good enough now. So yeah, it comes the Algon class comes with a book, which is Algon explained in Igbo in I'm sorry, not Igbo 2, in Algon 2 level 2, when you're doing an apprenticeship with Adibia. One of the things you're going to be doing is making your own book, but it's really a book of like cures, remedies, knowledge, and that kind of thing. I don't know. Jashikano. Thank you, Metasol, for that question. Metasol, are you signed up? You should be getting an email this probably tomorrow. Yeah, Monday. So I'll do more. Jashika. I'm not seeing any more comments. I think you guys are worn out. You guys are tired or what? Or unless it's something on my side. I should have turned the Wi-Fi off. Okay, I'm gonna gamble and keep the Wi-Fi on. Okay, so okay, I'll do my Jashika. Can you hear me? 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 Let me know if you can hear me. I see some hearts. The hearts probably imply you can hear me. Okay, so the comments are back. We can hear you. Yes. Okay, I'll do my. Yeah, you guys seem very chill today. I think you guys are all out of questions. I think you guys have mastered Udinani. You guys have mastered Udinani. It seems like nobody has any more questions. You mentioned Mancala, yes, a few times. Have any books or videos in the works with the relationship with Mancala, Udinani, or no Dinala, and any Mancala recommendations to buy? Odinma. So yeah, so in Igbo we call Mancala Okwe. 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 I don't know why I can't think. OKWE. And Okwe is Mancala. So those of you who are familiar, there are a series of pods on the ground. You have stones or like pebbles, or we use seeds from the Okwe tree. And you then, take it and, oh, how can I explain it? There's four in each pod. You pick up four and you drop four, 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 and then you drop one in each pod until you reach your final, you run out. Then if there's seeds in the pod where you ran out at, you grab it and keep going. The objective is to start at four in each pod and end up with four in each pod at the end. There is an ilu. So the person that asked is asking because there's an ilu that says a person who understands Okwe understands the universe. Uwa, right? A person who understands Okwe understands the universe. Okwe, right? So Okwe is Mancala. If you go everywhere, you go in Black Africa, real Africa. Everywhere you go in the real Africa, you're going to see people who play. There's always going to be somebody who plays Okwe, Mancala. They'll call it different names, but it's always the exact same game, exact same rules, exception here and there. Little things are different and so forth. So it's something universal to the entire experience, and it's something that has some sort of profound spiritual lesson within. I do not know any books that go into Okwe. I don't know any books that go into Okwe. I don't know any books that really break it down and that kind of thing. I really think it's just something where you have to just get it and play it. As far as like a Mancala thing I'd recommend, I don't own one. I'd like to get one pretty soon though, but I don't own any Mancala boards. I just don't think that any games with like little pebbles would work because I have little kids. And not that they'll swallow it, but it'll be all over the place in short time. So I don't have any games like that in the house. But yeah, I used to play it a lot when I was a small Pekin, a small child in Nigeria. But we would just dig the holes in the ground, and then we would play with like shiny stones, whichever nice smooth pebbles we can find. Who is that man behind you? Nobody's behind me. How do we go back? How do we go back? Okay. All right. Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. How old is the Afa language? Sima, that is a very good question. But one of the things about the Afa language is that the Afa language is spoken by Afa, and it is spoken by Afa in every Kwa Niger Congo language that I'm aware of. So that language would have to predate the point where these languages that have a common origin start diverging into different languages, right? It would have to predate it. You see the Afa language appear in a lot of the words in these languages too. At the same time, the Afa language is not necessarily different from those other languages. But it is clearly a root that they all share in common. It is a root that they all share in common. So oftentimes you'll hear things like for example, in a very old, not in use anymore term for woman in Igbo language is iya or iya or iya, which still survives in Yoruba. And it still survives in Igbo in terms like Ndinyem, which is a woman's group, or Nwunye, your wife, right? But in Afa, you now see that Iya, Iyi, which is river, are connected. That there's a relationship between them. That they probably have the same root, right? So you learn a lot about language from studying Afa. And it's something I've done all summer. I've been studying Afa. But as far as how old the Afa language is, I can't give an exact date. I will say that it is most definitely predates the point where all these languages start becoming their own thing because they all share it in common. They all have it embedded in them. So thank you for that. Hello, how's everyone? Hey, Tina, how you doing? How you doing? Way to come in with positive energy. Who's the mind behind? Yeah, ain't nobody behind me. Other day, the weekend. Another day to the weekend would be. Okay. Oh yes, yes, another day. Absolutely, yes. Okay, so you mentioned that basically the universe is comprised mostly of masculine and the rest is feminine. No, the universe is feminine. The universe is feminine. The world is feminine. Anything, the things that are tangible and physical and manifest in the world that we identify as the world, let's call it this way. The things we identify as the world are feminine, right? And then they have masculine components, but the earth is feminine, the universe is feminine, physicality, the concept of physicality is feminine. So it's the other way around. It's the other way around. I'm just listening and learning. My father is from Imo States. Cool. I was born in Texas to an American mother. I never got the chance to learn anything about my culture. Okay, well, welcome, Peaches. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being here. Do you know what town your father is from? And in Igbo culture, we never say my father is from blank. You'd say I am from that place. Wherever your father is from is where you're from. So if you're interested in learning Igbo culture, that's lesson number one, right? So I'm from Awamama, right? I am from a place called Umokwe, right? Which is where, of course, my father's from as well. So, Odemma. Peaches, do you know what town he's from in Igbo land? Carve a board by hand. Yeah, it's a possibility. I have a lot of questions, but it will need divination. They're very deep. They said I was called to serve, but a DIY person, so I don't know how it'll work because I'm not traditional. Master Voyager, if you're interested in AFA, interested in divination, we do have a DBO we work with on Patreon. He's the man, so he would be able to definitely help you out as far as that goes. Do not worry about orthodoxy when it comes to African spirituality. Do not worry about orthodoxy when it comes to African spirituality. It is good to learn the tradition. It is good to learn the culture. It is good to learn the context. It is good to learn how your ancestors did it because they did it correctly and they did it well. But once you have mastered the method that your ancestors passed to you, ultimately you will find your own method. You will find your own. Some people find their own first and then come into the tradition. Either way, you'll be all right. The thing that's guiding you is the same thing that guided your ancestors to this, and you will probably arrive at the same point if you keep your hands clean and your heart clean and focus on the road your chi created for you. I'm on my spiritual journey. I had started hearing about Uri, but I wanted to learn the different similarity to Manala and Igbo practices, right? So a lot of people have pointed out to me that the Uri is similar to the Chi in the Igbo worldview. A lot of what you'll see in Ifa is very similar to Odinani, all right? It's just that because of the cultures, they emphasize different things. So the emphasis on the Chi, your creator, your source, your spark, your guiding force, your the thing that's carrying you through this world and looking after you and so forth. The emphasis in the Igbo tradition is a lot higher on the chi. From my own outside observation, we focus more on the chi in the Igbo tradition. I want to say in Ifa they focus more on the Orisha, which we would call Abara, Odema. So, but both of them have Abara. Both of them have Chi Ori and so forth. So, either way, if you continue to follow what resonates with you, if you are also discerning, like if I say something that doesn't make any damn sense, you're not obligated to believe me, right? It's my job to prove it to you. So if you're discerning and you're listening to your internal voice, which is that discernment, you'll arrive where you need to arrive. I don't know. Do you have any resources on how to read Akaraka more in depth that your video went? Bree, at the moment, no, I don't. Because I shared everything I know. And the person who taught it to us was very like, he's not with all this internet. He's not with all this internet shit. So I'm trying to learn more. I definitely think that will not be my last video on Akaraka. And once I learn more, I will also incorporate it into the book that I am writing for the traditional medicine class. Trump or Kamala? I'm not gonna vote. I'm not gonna vote, bro. I don't know. I've kind of tapped out of voting, right? I think what I should do is get enough money to start bribing politicians. That'll affect change, but just I'm good on the voting. It's not my. I spent my teenage years caring too much about that stuff, and then I got to a point. I was like, wait, what am I doing? And then that was the end of that foolishness. So I do wonder when people are like older than me and they're still so tapped in to the point that they can like insult people over it and fight people over it and cut off family and things like that. Uh, yeah, or I'll see there's like my wife works in healthcare. And one of the things that, she's talked to me about is how many people die stressing out about like politicians, right? That's not about to have that happen, right? So, I don't know. How many strands of wheat? Okay. How many strands of wheat are intertwined in one shredded wheat biscuit? Okay, so I'm going to give you a rough estimate because I don't believe that it is the same amount in every shredded wheat biscuit. Okay, now I would need things that give me context so I can figure out how many strands are in each shredded wheat biscuit. So right now, all I know is we're dealing with a three-dimensional kind of maybe a square cube type thing going on. And so whatever is on the front would be doubled and then some. And I'm going to just try to picture one in my head. One, two. It's hard to say. And then it's like, what brand are you eating, right? What brand do you count Chex Mix or uses it specifically shredded wheat, the brand, right? Because there's a lot of those woven wheat joints. I do wonder how they do it though. That's a good question, James, and we'll come back to it. So much knowledge in that head. It's a big ass head. Thank you. I appreciate it. Sima Dalo One Dalo. Do messages from Arushi about the future reverse the course before/around the projected thing? Yeah, so there's an ilu that Ndi will use, and I think it's become a general Nigerian one where they say destiny can be delayed, but it can't be changed. So one of the reasons our ancestors don't really like they don't there's not a strong emphasis on Chukwu as far as the ancestors go, is whatever Chukwu's will is going to be and has already been. So it's not to be amended. It's not something that will be changed, right? It is something to be experienced and witnessed. And so even if you get a message from XYZ, no, it's not going to change. Now, what if the future, picture it this way, what if the future requires you to respond the way you do respond to that message? That's a whole different question, right? So, maybe an Irish calls you and says, hey, you need to go and do blah, blah, blah. And you say no. Well, what if that's how it was supposed to be? You were supposed to reject that at that point, right? And whatever ripple that has is all a part of the fabric of existence or Ogodokomosu. Um, yeah. What else? What else? There was another thing. It left my mind. It'll come back to me. I'll do my. There's a message held for review. Show. What is your favorite snack N word? My favorite. You're tripping. It's definitely not shredded wheat. Okay, let's be respectful. Okay, we're not N-wording it up here, right? Let's be respectful. Though I understand that you're not saying it out of disrespect. Do ebos have any folklore mythologies around tropical storms or hurricanes? Yes, they do. About storms in general. Nothing is coming to mind right now, but yes, they do. Absolutely. Nothing is coming to mind right now. I do know there is one. What was it? There's a story about a river having a twin, and this twin was taken away from her. And so once a year, she will reach out looking for her twin, and that causes a flood. But as good a story that is, I can't really sit down and tell you it because I don't know the beats and things like that. I just know the general idea. I don't even know which river it is. I have a book called African Spirituality and Ontology on like folk tales or something like that, and it's just all Igbo stories, but I think that's where I got this one story from. So yeah, it's a beautiful story. But the story about a river, she had a twin. Her twin was taken away from her, and so once a year she'll reach out looking for the twin, and that causes the flood in that community. So I'm not sure. As far as like hurricanes, I don't think so because we don't have hurricanes in our part of the world, though the hurricanes come from Africa. The hurricanes come from the Bight of Biafra specifically, right? The Bight of Biafra, which I think they changed the name to the what did they change the Bight of Biafra to? Gulf of Guinea, Gulf of Guinea. But it's the Bight of Biafra. We know what it is. You know. Uh, I'm not sure what my father's town is. I can try to ask someone. Yeah, please do. That's very, 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 very important. So as far as Igbo culture goes, you are a member, a citizen, a that's your family. That town is your family. So if you land and you say, I am so and so, if you just land there and say your last name, anybody from that town will be able to take you exactly to where your ancestors are from. You will go there, you'll meet the rest of your family, who they have an account of you, even if you don't have an account of them. It's hard to explain, but they're aware of you, even though you're not aware of them, right? And so you'll go there. I can probably point you to your dad's house. Yeah, I don't know what you guys' relationship is, but it kind of doesn't matter. I also want people to understand that your relationship with your parents don't matter as far as your belonging to your umonna, your town. You're one of their members. You're one of their family. So you have a whole bunch of family members. You have a whole bunch of people in the world walking around with your face, and in one very specific place that generations of your ancestors have walked upon and touched and interacted with. And so it's always a blessing to be able to connect to that. I mean, who knows? Maybe you're from my town. You know, maybe you're from my town. It's not like like in the West where like it's just a place you live. It's not what it is. It's like it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. All right, where are we at? I'm not sure. Okay, cool. If 10 copycats are on a roof and one of them jumps, how many are left remaining on the roof? If 10 copycats are on a roof and one of them jumps, how many? Oh, well, then it'd be zero if they're all copycats, right? Does it matter if I pray in Igbo or English? Does it matter? No, you pray in the language you speak and what resonates with you, right? You pray in what you speak. Now, if you are using certain instruments that Igbo people use, like if you're using Oji, Kolonut, you're going to use Igbo. Oji does not speak Igbo. If you're using Ofo, you're going to speak Igbo, right? If you are incorporating, if it's an ancestral prayer, right? If you're incorporating your ancestors and your ancestors are Igbo, then if you speak Igbo, you're gonna see it's a whole different experience. It's a whole different experience. You don't have to speak it correctly, just speak it. It's an entirely different experience, right? If you're communicating with your ancestors, but in large part, you speak the language your ancestors spoke. And if English is all that's available to you, that's fine too, right? Things of spirit, language doesn't matter. It just when you start using specific things like breaking Oji or using all full and those things, then okay, now we're speaking Igbo. We go back to Igbo. Never mind. Does it matter if okay, yeah, you were saying that. Does Odinala say anything about giants? Not to my knowledge, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are some stories about giants back home and things like that. I don't know any. I don't know any stories about giants though. Wait, do I? Hold on. Hold on. No, I don't know any stories about giants. What is the significance of Mami Wata slash mermaids in Odinala? That's such a good question. So in Odinala, there are four houses or four roads or four pathways that we use to enter, exist, and exit the world. These are Eke. Eke is light, right? Eke is light. Urie. Urie is water. Afo. Afo is earth. and Nkwo is wind. Urie, Urie is what we're talking about now. All of these elements have their own world, right? And they have things that exist within that world and then a way of being in that world and so forth. So people that come from Uri, they have a certain way that they are that people that come from Afa are not, right? Best way to know is the day you are born. The day you are born is going to tell you. The world, okay, so Uriye, that's when you talk about things like Mami Wata and all those things, those are all things that exist in the world of Uriye. They enter and exit the world that we live in by way of water. They are children of Wamiri, the water world, the world of water. Um, Mermaids are not looked upon too kindly at home. They're not looked upon too kindly at home. Usually, if something from Wamiri is trying to get into our world, it means that there's something we have that it doesn't have that it wants. And so typically this causes a lot of strange relationships between the people who are living and the children of Wamiri. Wamiri is also unique in the sense that there is this cosmological battle for supremacy between Miri, water, and Allah, land. Water and land. The reason is because in the telling of Igbo folk tales or Igbo, let me not say folk tales, in cosmological stories, the original mother, Eke, also known as Uwa, the universe, or Nechuku, the godmother. The original mother dies, and she is buried in a shroud of water. She revives, or she comes back to life. Reincarnates is the word I'm looking for. She reincarnates from that shroud as the earth, as Allah, as the earth. So the battle of supremacy is who should be listening to who, right? I, water, came before you, right? But I, earth, am your mother in a new form. So, or your predecessor in a new form. So, and so the reason for, anyway, so what's the word? That particular situation right there, you'll see it appear in a lot of different stories. You'll see it appear in just the way we live on a day to day, where things from water kind of don't want to follow the rules of things from land, right? So even Uriye people, right, it's very, very common for them to be unconventional and so forth. So Mami Wata is one of those, right? Mami Wata is one of those. But yeah, that's what it is. There's a lot in fact, I should be doing a video on mermaids pretty soon. So thank you for that. Fleabee with the stormy questions. I don't know who Fleabee is. I appreciate you, Petty, for asking them. Uh, did he did he do it or did he not? You know, I mean, enough people are saying he did it for me to say that he probably did it. I guess what's left to figure out is what the extent of it is, right? What the extent of it is. Um, yeah, that's really it. I don't have too much. I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. It is what it is. A lot of the things that people are being sensational about are just like other than like the trafficking the kids, the drugging, the beating the women, and all this stuff. Now people are trying to like look at other like musicians and rappers, and the narrative is always like you got somebody who's trafficking children, beating women, drugging people, SA, all these just all types of stuff that's gonna get this channel shut down if I even mention it, right? And the shocking thing is, oh, did you hear they were gay? Like, oh, this one's gay too. So there's this weird little quiet, like, it's not quiet, but there's this weird undertone of a homophobic witch hunt going on. Um, and that is the shocking thing for people. It's not like this guy's got 350 bottles of ecstasy in the form of baby oil, which I don't even know what kind of evil chemist made that. But yeah, yeah, it's just so let's be careful about that. Let's be oh, did you hear Meek Mill was gay? Like, okay, okay. He's in the arts. A guy in the arts? Yeah, maybe. You know what I mean? It's not shocking, but all the other stuff. That's what I'm like, yeah, about. Not all the, oh yeah, and this one went to his party too. Like, okay, like I don't know. But yeah. Yeah, there's way too much evidence to say he didn't do it. I think people get very ridiculous when they get into positions of power, especially if they had ridiculous in them to begin with, and uh, had it happen to them as well. I'm hearing that he had a history of this happening to him as well. So I don't know. Uh, hey, you said ask anything. Yeah, no, we're flowing. You're good. Vote none of the above. Yeah, I'm not really voting. When people say ase or ashe, what does that translate to in Igbo? So in Igbo we say ise. Ise is the number of manifestation. It's a number. Ise is the number of manifestation. It is the number five. I got clay on my hand, so it's gonna be blue. It is number five is Ise. Five is the number of manifestation. It is a number of an element known as Omumu. Omumu. Omumu is the feminine power of the world. It is a feminine power of the world. It is the ability to make something appear, to manifest, to bring something forward, to birth a new thing. So when we speak on to, like, if you say something that I want to just radiate all over the world and bless everybody and live forever, I say ise after you say it, and then that'll give it that energy and send it out. So you hear that at the end of prayers, the end of manifestations, the end of iwaji, the end of a lot of things. You'll hear the phrase ise has that power. Ofo is also used as well. So, but it's ise, I say, they're all related. Again, going back to that Afa language that we were talking about earlier. Good questions, by the way. Derek, when you were a teenager, did you have an angry pro black? Oh, you gotta make me joke. Hey man, I'm still in my angry pro black hotep phase. What are you talking about, bro? I'm not really that subtle about it. I'm still in my teenage angry pro black hotep 100%. What? Yeah, bro. Once I watched Roots, man, I became a menace. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. If you didn't, I'm very suspicious of you. If you're a black man in America and you didn't have and do not exist in yeah, I'm just like, what did I see that you didn't see, right? You know what I mean? So, did he do anything that Skull and Bones didn't already do for 200 years prior? There we go, Freemasons Mafia. They all did it first and set an example. How do you think Sean got the money for the rappers? Yeah. I talked about it in my Ritual Explained video, right? And I don't know if I was I don't want to make it what the video was about, but I pointed out certain things for a reason in that video. So I have a video called Ritual Explained for those who haven't seen it. And I explain how these systems of power operate using certain rituals, right? These systems of power, these organizations of power operate using certain rituals because there's a level of gravity that we reach where I can no longer just take your word for it. I can no longer just, oh, you're the best qualified. Here you go. I'm trusting you with the fact that I've killed XY. I haven't actually done this. I'm trusting you with the fact that I've killed XYZ amount of people. You're going to have to do something that shows me you will not give this secret away, right? And every single place in the world you go, there is an organization of men who are bounded by secrets that control the environment. And that's just what it is everywhere you go, right? Somebody explained this to me with the ilu anenwe alaenwe. Earth is something people own. Earth is something people own. Anenwe alaenwe. Okay, so everywhere you go, there's a group of men, specifically men, that are bound by secrets that operate, that control the given environment, what's going on. A lot of their rituals are sexual in nature, a lot of them are criminal in nature, and so forth, right? And then, once you have that level of gravity you're operating in, they get very cosmological. That's why a lot of spirituality gets a bad name, because at that level you can't just be going to church no more. You got to start doing the shit that actually works. So yeah, but it doesn't have to be that way, right? You don't have to apply those tools towards having diddy parties and baby oiling people down and all that stuff. So I think appreciate your sense of humor, bro. Yeah, anytime, man. I'm not playing either, bro. Like, who's joking? I don't. Mini wheats versus regular makes a difference. Exactly. Like what wheat? I just feel like when we say shredded wheat, is it the brand? Is that a brand, or is that like a species of wheat? Right. Try not to eat wheat anymore either. So I've been really interested for a long time in what foods make you do what, right? And one of the things that I recently became aware of, and I'm not saying anything miraculous to those who like understand nutrition and things like that. But one of the things I became aware of is that there's a mechanism in your being where if you eat too much of a single food, the food has diminishing returns as far as like dopamine, right? So if you eat too much, um, I remember one time I drank, no, like that's not a good example because that was just the acid. If you eat too many leaves of spinach, after a while, spinach starts seeming nasty to you, right? It's a natural thing. I think somewhere it's kind of helps us maintain diversity in our diet. If you eat, oh geez, like right now I've been eating a lot of fried yam, right? I haven't gotten tired of it yet, but if I eat, you can eat to a point where it's all of a sudden becomes nasty to you. But there are certain things that disrupt that mechanism in your mind. There are certain things that disrupt that mechanism in your mind so that you don't get tired of eating a specific food. Wheat is one of them. And when you look at the list of the things that do that, all of a sudden the ingredients list on the back of your food starts making way more sense, right? Especially those unhinged foods like Doritos and shit, right? Meat, the heavy metals they put in food, all those things where it's like, bro, why did you put this in there? All that stuff is to just shut off that part of your brain so that you can, every time you eat the chip, you get the reward. It feels like a reward, right? People say, oh, you can never eat one chip. Oh, yeah, yeah, no, it's engineered that way. It's engineered that way, right? The only thing that will make you stop without that natural mechanism is you actually getting sick. Is once you actually start getting sick, right? So pizza, you can eat so much pizza that all of a sudden your stomach hurts. But if pizza didn't have so much of that stuff, those different ingredients in it that turn off that mechanism, you would reach a point where each bite of pizza would have diminishing returns, which is often how we feel with like vegetables and sometimes with fruit and things like that. So yeah. And I've been looking into that stuff. So I'm not really big on wheat, right now. Your voice reminds me of my father. Okay. That's very okay. All right. He doesn't speak to me, and I'm grateful I found your channel. Okay, well, I really appreciate that. I know it means a lot. I'm really grateful for that. It means a lot. Mind blowing. Thanks, brother. I don't know what that was referring to, but I appreciate you. Word to MF Doom. Yeah, word to the villain. Word to the villain. Favorite snack N word is crazy. Yeah. It was unhinged. You can ask me my favorite snack. You don't have to add the caveat or was that the word? You don't have to add the extra ingredients, of the N word. I think my grandfather had stories about his dad and grandfather, and he said he didn't know them well enough to remember anything. His siblings also moved on. So I feel a bit a wall. Okay. It's my grandfather's stories about my dad. Okay, Carlos, I appreciate you sharing that. I'm trying to remember what the context would be for that, but appreciate you sharing that. No, never mind. What is your take on Egyptian deities and spiritual practices compared to Manala? We are all talking about the same thing. We are all talking about the same thing. And people take different paths, but you end up at the same watering hole when you reach cosmological systems. And the reason we are all talking about the same thing is because we are not talking about what we believe, we are talking about what we experience and know. We are talking about we're talking about a bridge that can be crossed by feet, not an imaginary bridge, but an actual bridge that can carry your weight, right? And so that's why I was saying when you get to these societies, after a while, they can't just be doing Sunday school shit. They got to start, talking about some higher stuff. That's why you look at like Masons and so forth, and they're obsessed with like Egypt, because Egypt is their access point to African spirituality, and the Moors, because the Moors are their access point to African spirituality, and so forth, right? It gets real African looking at the highest points. So, with missing elements, of course. But yeah, the we're all saying the same thing. What we're talking about is not we're not talking about what we believe, and that's why I said earlier, don't nobody should feel an obligation to believe what I'm saying. If I say something and it sounds like some bullshit, then good. It's supposed to sound like some bullshit to you, and it is to you. You know what I mean? And that's okay. There's no obligation of belief. Once you get into um, the belief, the thinking it's a belief thing, then I think you can be easily misled, and I'm not here to mislead. There's a lot of things. I've found that as far as Odinani goes, and I've said this before, the things I came in not agreeing with or thinking that they were ridiculous were the things I learned the most from, right? And the things that I grew the most from understanding. And I honestly, the things I embrace the hardest today. And the reason I think for that is that you go through your whole life having what you agree with and what makes sense to you. So you become a master of that, right? And the rest of the world's knowledge will then lie in the things you don't agree with and don't feel comfortable around and are not familiar with, right? So those are, you've been looking away from it your whole life and looking at the ones that, are easy for you to look at. And you've seen it finish, as Nigerians say. And once you turn around and look at the ones that you don't agree with, all of a sudden there's a whole new world of understanding and knowledge that's there, right? One of them was like sacrifice. Like growing up, I would have thought that was like, oh no, you don't want to do that, poor chicken. But like here I am eating KFC, talking about poor chicken. It's just that don't make no damn sense. It's dumb. Then once I understood what was happening during the sacrifice and what it meant and the process and all that, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So that one climbed way up the list for me. But like as an angry, what is it? Angry hotep. What was the term? Angry teenage hotep. Yeah, I would have been like, nah, man, we need to we need to we need to get knowledge of self, cause something else. I would have been on something else, but now I kill a chicken's ass immediately. What's the difference between the chi and the onyowa? Oh, he fine. Good question, right? Your chi and your onyowa, they get confused as being one and the same because the onyowa is also known as your chi owa, right? The every person is made up of four elements: your chi, eke, onyowa, or chiowa, but we'll say onyowa to avoid confusion, and your mo, right? Your onyowa is a your onyowa is a spirit that is undying, is as they say. It is the part of you that existed in your previous life and will exist in your present life and will come back again in your next life. Your onyowa is on a mission sent by your chi. Your chi sent your onyowa on a mission, right? Your onyowa therefore is the part of you that has a purpose, the part of you that understands your purpose, and it is the part of you that is there to guide you towards actualizing and activating that particular purpose, that particular state of being, that particular true you, fully manifest you, right? Which we call awele, right? The blooming, the full awakening, full I don't like the term awakening, the full actualization of you, right? The full actualization of you. That is awele, and is your onyowa that is moving in that direction. Your onyowa lived before you. So this is why Nibo, we say that an individual reincarnates, right? When you pass, a part of you will return by way into another child, and that one person will live their life. And the connecting string is that there is a connection between you guys' purposes, right? And because your purposes are connected, your natures are going to also be similar. So oftentimes, like for example, now, the term onyowa is referring specifically to the person you were previously, right? Some people refer to as your ilo, your returning person, right? In the previous life, um, though my mother disputes this. In my previous life, I was one of my grand uncles, and he was a good friend of my grandfather. And by profession, he was a palm wine tapper, so he made palm wine. When I went back for my wedding, and I've told this story a lot. When I went back to have my wedding, my my son from the previous life, who's like a man in his 70s. Um, I mean, we don't have a best man in the wedding tradition thing, but he was my best man. You know, so I think that's the first time. That's the first time I was lucid enough to be aware of meeting him. I'm pretty sure I met him as a child, and he called me his father. He referred to me as his father. He transferred the affection he had for his father onto me, and it was an amazing experience. So yeah, that was awesome. But it happens all the time. My son is my grandfather. My daughter is my grand aunt, who I told a story about on my channel before my daughter was born. So I think it's connected somehow. So that person is your Unyuwa. It is not the whole of them that return, but there's a part, right? There's a part of their essence, their soul, their spirit that came back in the form of this new child, and then there's going to be some connective tissue once you see it, right? My daughter in the previous life was very gifted spiritually. If you had a dream, she was the one who read your dreams. She read Akaraka, she read your poems. Um, she healed my brother's broken leg when the Western hospitals said that they couldn't, he's going to be crippled for the rest of his life. Now he's a spry young dude and so forth. So that's who she was. But the caveat was that she was very pretty. She was very attractive when she was younger. And so she was using her cuteness to not do any work. So the big story is that she was really lazy. She was really lazy and didn't want to do any work and so forth, right? And my grandfather, I mean, I could tell stories for days about my grandfather, but I mean, if you know my grandfather, you know my son. There, it's just this. It's the same person. You know what I mean? But yeah. So the onyowa, that is your onyowa, that part of you that returns. The chi, the chi is the parcel of the creator that sets you into motion. If that makes sense, that got it, that started it all, right? Your chi is your creator. Best way to say it. Your chi is your creator. Okay? Your chi is your creator. Your onyowa is a part of creation. It's a part of the creation your chi made, but it's specifically the part of you that is guiding you, that is aware of what your chi knows and is guiding you if you're able to listen and walk in harmony with it. So onyowa and chi are different, right? There's a song by Celeste Wuku that says Ilo Abugichi or Abuchi, which is your Ilo, your Onyowa is not your Chi, right? So a lot of people that are returning to Odinani, this is one of the mistakes or things that get mixed up sometimes because at home we say Chiowa more than we say Onyowa, right? But I say Agon. I say Agon and I say Onyowa just to keep it clear. Ifine, good question. I appreciate it. Our last name is Nwachuku. Okay, Nwachuku is a very, 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 very common name. It means child of God. It means child of God, right? So Nwachuku is a very common name. Nwachuku tends to be a little more common in Abia State, I think, and maybe Imo states than other places. But you can't trace place. It's okay. You can trace places in Igbo land based on like name, but I wouldn't advise it. And the only time you can trace it based on name is sometimes like a dialect will be used. Like I know people named Ofodele with an L might they're definitely not from my area because we say Ofodere, right? So they might be from Anambra, they might be from all the places that use L's instead of R's. But this is not an accurate way of doing it. Sometimes, like in my place, like we don't say Guinea, we say Ngeri, right? And but we name girls that are named Gineka. We name them Gineka, not Ngereka, because Ngereka sounds funny. So that's names are not the best way to trace things. It's not the best way to trace things. But Nwachuku is a super common name. And you'll ask your cousins. Ask your cousins, hey, what town are we from? Hey, what town are we from? Everybody, they'll know. They'll know. Not like your cousins in America. Maybe some of them won't know. Or maybe they do know. Just, you'll know who to ask. Don't worry, Meek Mills won't show up and he look aggressively rapping. You ain't. Oh, man. Yeah. I used to stick. Now I know. I use my stick. Now I know to do so. I usually instruct my, say, AI to do Igbo first, then English after. That's cool. Yeah. Keep doing what you need to do to get to the point where it works, if that makes sense, right? Since language doesn't matter, does that mean that there's not bloodline requirement? Okay, good question. So understand what I'm saying. If Odinani has this element of ancestral connection, everybody has ancestors, right? So if you start practicing Odinani and you are from Brazil, your Odinani is going to that's going to be reflected in that, right? So maybe you don't have Igbo ancestors, but you're going to connect to your ancestors. The reason we're using Igbo is because my ancestors are Igbo. So if I'm connecting to my ancestors, I'm going to speak the language they spoke, if that makes sense, right? So in a sense, language is a requirement, but it's subjective. An Igbo person is going to use Igbo to connect to their ancestors because that's just what they spoke. I know the difference between when I speak to my grandmother in English and when I speak to her in Igbo. It's a totally different conversation, right? But somebody who is damn Mongolian, they don't need to speak Igbo. They need to speak the Mongolian language, right? So that's what I mean as far as that goes, right? What was the other one? The bloodline requirement. Again, it's your ancestors we're talking about. It's your ancestors. When we talk about like rivers, for example, right? People have these like they call them water deities, right? It's the Igbo understanding is you're going to refer to the water you live near, right? You're going to the water you live near. So the people who say Idemmili instead of Nemmiri, they're because that's their river. My river is in Java, or my ancestral river is in Java because that's the water that fed and sustained my ancestors. Um, some people's going to be Mississippi. Some people is going to be shit, I don't, that's the last river, the Nile. Some people it's going to be the Euphrates. You know what I mean? So, yeah, we're talking about you. We're talking about your life. We're talking about your ancestors. Not necessarily you coming and doing what I'm doing, but you taking the essence of what I'm doing and applying it to who you are, right? So, what is the importance of, but then like there are certain things like kola, Oji is Igbo. It speaks Igbo. It was given to us by our ancestors as a means of connecting through time and space forever and ever and ever. There's no such a thing as speaking English with Oji. I seen a I was at an event and a gentleman had an Oji and said in Jesus' name and everybody was quiet and I was so proud. I was so proud. I was so proud. You don't understand what that means because we've been dealing with this foolishness of people taking Aji and saying in Jesus' name, amen. And people saying amen with them. But they said in Jesus' name, amen. Everybody was quiet. And I was just like, hey, it's over. It's over. It's over. It's over. It's over. It's over. So yeah. No, we're up. We're up. The Algon more. The Algon more is like a spiritual person. We're up one. We're up one. Yeah. So yeah. So it's not there's a bloodline requirement to talk to my ancestors, right? To be do my thing. But there's a bloodline requirement for speaking to your ancestors too, but it's not the same, right? Mermaids are scary in the Caribbean. Yeah, anytime you see these kind of people, there's going to be an aversion to mermaids. Yeah. Out of all 3,000 languages in Africa, how many of the tribal languages use similar or the same words? James, the question you're asking, all of them share words with other African languages. Like no African language is an isolate where it just doesn't share words with any other one. They all share words with each other, but they're not like it's not like a universal like everybody. Well, hold on, there's some things, right? Like Bantu, Mbutu, Mbantu, that one that you see commonalities there, but it's not everyone that has that word, right? Um, but yeah, no language. They're in language families. I also don't know what you guys mean by tribal. I also don't know what you guys mean. I used to think I knew what Americans meant when they said tribal. No, I'm sorry. I think that's one of them sneaky little N words. I think that's the N word, right? So, so let's use ethnic, right? Ethnic is better because I think tribal is the N word, right? One of the things we've identified on this Ask Me Anything Live is that there's some sneaky N words floating through the English language. I think tribal is one of them. The culture is one of them. Chief, what is that? What do you mean, chief? Right? I don't know. But yeah, thousands of languages in Africa. They all share words with other African languages, but I don't know any words that are like universal across all of them. If that's what you're asking, I don't know. Yep, they're overtly concerned with him being gay and the human rights violations. Exactly, but. And so, you know who else is gay? It's like, which man in the arts? Which other man in the arts, man? Just blow my mind here. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, yeah. This is whatever it is. I don't- yeah, forget about his neighbor saying that a bus pulls up at 3 a.m. and a bunch of kids get out of it. Let's just talk about, oh, I see him in a picture with Marlon Wayans, like, I don't know, people just, that's kind of why I avoid that topic on here. It's just too entertaining for people. It's too entertaining, and wherever it's dropped, it's just that's what the subject is going to be. That's just what it's going to be because it stimulates people too much. What yeah. I'm learning water spirits are crazy powerful. Absolutely, yeah, they are. They are absolutely they are. Yeah. They are transactional though, so be careful. They are transactional. They don't just give for no reason. We know about Diddy since the 90s. Sister Soldier wrote about him in her novels. Really? I mean, I know everybody's known about him. Okay, so my brother is in my brother's in the music industry. And I'm gonna tell you guys, I have a story about Diddy. My brother's in the music industry. Um, and okay, so he had heard some weird things like, hey, watch out for blah 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 blah. Like he's not like he's very okay. He's big, but he's not like up in like the music label kind of industry. There's like two music industries, and he's like actual has fans. That a lot of the other stuff is smoke and mirrors, and so he's not in the smoke and mirrors industry. But the smoke and mirrors industry, there's a lot of weird stuff going on and because it's all about like leverage. People want to have leverage over each other and that kind of thing. And then some people are just freaky as hell and diabolical. And so there's this girl from my old hometown who is dating Puff Daddy, right? And she shared some stories with him that were to him unbelievable. And he was telling me that Diddy has been completely ruined. He was saying this like years ago. Diddy has been completely ruined, and that he doesn't want to tell me the stories because it would ruin everything. And I was like, oh, what? That like, what do you like? And I'd already heard the stuff that had already, okay, like, oh, he's gay. Like, I mean, okay. So he's like, nah, it's worse than that. He kept saying, nah, it's worse than that. So, but he wouldn't tell me. He wouldn't tell me. And I remember this whole Diddy girlfriend thing climaxed with she's like well known now. She's well known now because some of the drama around him and her got out. But she started. They weren't dating anymore. Maybe I don't know. I'm not. I don't know. Like anyway, yeah. And like she started dating my friend's brother, and this fool Puff Daddy called him on FaceTime at like everybody's at a party. I wasn't there. Everybody was at a party, just people I went to high school with. It. He calls him on FaceTime and starts threatening, like, and everybody's just amazed, like, "Oh my God, Puff Daddy's on FaceTime, right?" But yeah, the guy is, whew, the guy is. He operated as if he had nothing to lose, obviously. Um, and yeah, so my brother knew stuff about him before, but he kept telling me, I don't want to tell you because it's just gonna ruin everything. And I was like, nah, there's no way, there's no way, you know. I mean, like I already know people, there's already stories about him and da 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 and this, but then like so I went back and asked him, I was like, okay, how much of this did you know? And he said he knew things that aren't really being emphasized, but that he's learning things from all this being exposed. So I was like, okay, all right. So, yeah, it's been known. It's been known. Somebody just clicked the button and shut him off recently. 1990s. All rappers are scary thugs. They're all good, yeah, baby. I mean, based on what we're finding out, I think the 2024 paradigm has probably always been the case. Again, it's a bunch of men in the arts, you know. I've had an obsession with mermaids. I've always felt like an outcast from my family. All. And I have the gift to sing, which was also frowned upon my father's side of the family. Okay. I'm truly looking forward to your mermaid video. Check out my Nemiri, NNE space MMIRI, Nemiri explain video. So I kind of already talked about that. Talked about it. Um, do I have any videos that relate to it? I think that's the only water kind of video I have, but I'll elaborate more and so forth. So yeah, I'll do them. I take it you're from a very Christian family. Okay, yeah. Um, the fire and wind more masculine. Okay, awesome. Good question. So this is something that I've seen become a little bit of a debate point, right? People will say eke and unkwo, which are light and wind, are male, and urie and afo are female. I completely understand what these people are saying. One of the best ways to understand it is you can live on water, you can live on land, but you can't live on air or light, right? So that's one of the ways, like kind of the ways to conceptualize it, right? They're not really worlds, but the all of them are houses, if it makes sense, and so houses are feminine. I'll explain it. And then you see up here in folklore, anytime there's a folklore or a story about Eke Oriafo, it's always three women. It's always three women. I'm sorry, four women. It's always four women. But I understand what people say when they say it's masculine. Masculine, feminine, they're like attributes, they're natures, right? It doesn't mean that like, one buys the pink bike, one buys the blue bike, right? That kind of thing. Ndewo Roots is like a Disney movie compared to Goodbye Uncle Tom. It's banned for decades, more accurately depicts how bad American slavery was. Oh man, I don't man. Yeah, if that makes Roots look like a Disney movie, shit. But yeah. I don't I would that's tragic, man. I don't think everyone is engaged in sex rituals. Blackmail, yes, but they're more depraved the higher you go, bodies. But yeah, a lot of it is just like they just have like that's what they consider a good time, right? That's what they consider a good time. A lot of it is yeah, it just really is what it is. I mean, that's just what they consider a good time. I don't think it's like not all of it is like deep, but a lot of it's deep. A lot of it is deep. Oh, never mind. Within the Black diaspora, there is an infinite. Okay. Within the Black diaspora, there's an infinite for a call and response songs. Yes. That connects us. Does Odinani have any call and response songs? Explanation to it, like 9 out of 10 songs from Igbo culture are have a call and response element to them. 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10. Like it's just like a staple in African music. It's just normal. It's just normal. I'm even trying to think of songs that wouldn't have them. Yeah, it's just normal. It's just normal. That's normal. Odemma. That's just Africa wide. I'm glad you noticed that too. Throughout the diaspora, that's a connector. Call and response music. Odemma. Yeah, they're always gay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Instead of Nabisco shredded wheat, eat Mwachikush. Nobody's gonna tell him there's jizz on his shirt. Nah, well, they got me. Hey man, they got me. They got me. I'll do. Ah, shit. Okay, so but I could eat fufu and banku all day. Ah, I can eat fufu all day. Oh, so I'm seeing something that says that black people are supposed to eat way more fiber and next to no dairy, whereas white people are supposed to eat a lot of dairy and less fiber. And it would make sense because fufu, a lot of African foods are super fibery. They're like it's like a lot of fiber, but I feel great when I eat them. So like lately, I've been on a big yam kick, fried yam, pounded yam, so on and so forth. So I did my super fiber. Ezingbede, kedu ka ị mere? Adị mma nwanne, adị mma. Can you talk about uncrossing, unhexing, returning to sender? Yes, from the well done, well done. So big question, by the way, big question. There are a lot of ways a person can uncross, unhex, and so forth. Um, Hexes are not something to fear because they are more easy to take off and reverse than they are to activate, if that makes sense. But I'm trying to think of some interesting things that remove hexes. Okay, this is probably gonna get me demonetized, but uh period blood, like menstruation, it gets used a lot for that. It also gets used as an anti-poison. Same thing. The word in C is also poison. Um, what's another one? I'm trying to think of some other one. There's an entire science, right? So I can never just give you an answer that sums it up. But there's a lot of ways of doing it. Very often when it comes to let's say hexes and those types of things, you have to consent to them. You have to consent to them. Now, the person who is doing it has sneaky ways to make you consent to things that you don't know you're consenting to, right? Consent by way of eating something, saying something, just doing whatever it takes to say that you agree to this thing, right? Now, that consent element is tied to the awful. It's tied to the awful, meaning that another thing that tends to happen is if you are in righteous standing with your awful, you are immune. Once nobody can do anything to you, as far as hexes, anything spiritual can go. Once you step outside of your spiritual house, which is your awful, and you start, walking in the wilderness, if it starts raining, you don't have a roof over your head, right? So people can throw 150 things at me, for example, and nothing's gonna happen, right? Nothing, absolutely nothing's gonna happen. I'm within my awful. If I ever start wilding out, right? If you catch this rack, it just stops being books and starts being a bunch of baby oil, and probably got a bunch of things lingering in the air that's been trying to get me for a while, right? And then I'm susceptible, right? So that's I know how to keep you immune to that stuff. And I know a couple of little like reversals, like a lot of the unhexing comes from like things that come from women, if it makes sense. So, but that's a huge subject. That's like asking hey, can you explain chemistry real quick, right? And it's like, oh, we can go all day and what specific thing. So yeah, yeah, yeah. There's and then return to sender, like when you're doing igolfo, when you're that whole return to sender thing comes from Africa. It's an African spiritual thing, right? So you see it in Christianity, but we put it in there. It's not, it didn't come from there, right? Just yeah, it just happens all the time. You can, when you're speaking to your ancestors, you can say, hey, anything coming towards me that's not good for me, send it back to the person. When it comes to igolfo and it comes to iwology, you get some really, really funny, really theatrical back to senders, right? Yeah, really funny stuff. I can't think of anything right now, but it's like they're like bars, like anybody who uh uh I've heard, it's just funny stuff like just I can't think of nothing, but it's always just like anybody who wants to do blank to me, let blank happen to them first, right? Something like that. um, which is funny because it's common in like all the spiritual systems in Nigeria. So a lot of sometimes in Nigeria, like people use it as like there's a funny thing Nigerians say where it's like like let's say like now the president is Tinubu and he's horrible, right? And so somebody comes out and is supporting Tinubu, they'll say may God run your life the way Tinubu is running this country. Say amen. And then the person will never say amen. The person who's supporting won't say amen. So yeah, things like that, like anybody that wishes death on me, let death knock on their door first, that kind of thing. And that is very effective if you're walking with awful and ugu, if you're in righteous standing with your awful, it is very effective, right? And so that's why people don't play with people as far as Illuminati goes, especially righteous people. Do you believe that there are rules in the spirit realm governing interactions between living? Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There are absolute rules that govern, and that's what Illuminati is about: is figuring out those rules, understanding those rules, and operating within them. That's what it is. But yeah, there's absolute rules, definitely. That's what I just shared as one of them, right? You cannot do something spiritual against somebody who is in righteous standing. You can throw something at them and it'll just be pending, pending, pending until they mess up, then boom, right? But yeah, you can send a package to you, but you got to open that package, right? Much appreciated for sharing. Thank you for being here, Moonshine. Deron, there, well, one there. Yo, fam, can we get a list of those different foods that disrupt like wheat, peace, love, prosperity? Okay. Whew, I wish I had something I can write with to remember to like make a post, but I'm off the top of my head. Heavy metals, wheat. Um, there was an oil. There was an oil. Heavy metals, wheat, bread in general. Bread is why you see a lot of bread on a lot of foods. Um, because you got to think it's pretty unnatural to eat something to the point where your stomach hurts, right? If it didn't have that feature and you were just eating it, I think there was a nut. I want to say almonds. I want to say almonds, but wheat has it. Heavy metals. They just said heavy metals in the foods, and I'll try to make a post. Duran, I'll try to make a post. If I don't post in the next 2 days, Duran, if you can remind me to make that post, that would be great. Okay, I'd appreciate that. We've known each other long enough for you to know that's my system. So can you go in depth about the significance of Nri to Igbo people? I feel like there's a lot of misinformation online. Yeah, yeah, there's a crazy amount of misinformation online. So Nri, earlier I said that Aro people don't fight, right? So when Aro people would have fights, or when they were catching people for slavery, they would have Ohafia people do it for them, right? They would have Ohafia people do it for them. They don't fight, right? It's like if you're American, think about like Shell Oil in the U.S. military. Shell Oil technically doesn't fight, but they'll send that U.S. military on your ass quick for one block or another. And so the reason arrows don't fight is that arrows have a certain designation spiritually. And this designation is also shared by people in Nri in in Anambra, as well as people that are referred to as Osu. All three of them have the exact same signature spiritually. This particular signature gives them the ability to do certain things spiritually. And because they have these abilities and they have this place in the world, people don't fight them and they don't fight people, right? People don't fight them, they don't fight people. People, except like once like slavery got like very, very ridiculous, then kind of everything just shit kind of hit the fan. Plenty of people fought Naruto and things like that. But traditionally, people don't fight them. People don't tax them. And so they are spiritual specialists in the sense of connecting with Abara, and building Arushi. They are also specialists for cleansing the land, cleansing earth, cleansing abominations, right? Usu, Nri, Aro, pythons, all the same thing, right? All the same thing. And so, because they have this designation, they, in a lot of community, you'll see them in a lot of communities and aren't necessarily their quote unquote native community where they do their work. Now, the Europeans came to Igbo land and saw that there was these groups of people that people didn't hurt, that people didn't tax, and that people actively invited to their community to come do their work, right? To do their things like that. And they made the assumption that either Nri is like the capital of Igbo land or like they're like the ones running everything. So what they did during colonialism was they attacked Arochukwu first. I think Arochukwu was first. And once they defeated Arochukwu, nothing changed. Like no, it wasn't like, like if you take over Paris, you've taken over France, right? So they thought it was going to be the same thing with Arochukwu, and nothing changed. Like their neighbors didn't even flinch, right? And so they go, okay, maybe it's Inri. So they went to Inri, they took over Inri, and then they had the Is Inri come and declare that he's a human being, which nobody ever said he wasn't. And so he declared he was like, okay, I'm a human being. And nothing changed. So then they learned that Igbo land doesn't operate that way, that you have to go to every single village and that you have to democratically get every single person's consent, right? Which is why they decided to lead with the church as opposed to military force. But I think that they had this thing in Nigeria called Festak, Festival of African Culture. And during Festak, the Yoruba people decided that they were going to combine all their myths into one so that everybody is from Ife. But like if you go to Yoruba land, a lot of non-Ife people will be like, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I'm not from Ife, I'm from this place. Or my Oba is superior to the Ife one. And that they had their whole thing going on. Somebody just thought it was a good idea to bring that shit over here and try to create like a monomyth, right? And the monomyth was going to be based around Nri. And a lot of people who are educated on Igbo culture by way of like the internet fall into the trap of thinking that that's real. On the ground, everybody knows what it is, right? That kind of thing. So yeah, it's just a lot of colonial confusion. That kind of the colonialists really focused on those two communities because they saw that people like they didn't pay taxes anywhere. That people everywhere you go you see them. So like okay, these guys must be like the government or something. But no, it's just that they had a certain spiritual designation, very similar to like Levites in like the biblical Hebrew tradition. Levites in the biblical Hebrew tradition, where they're like the priestly caste, right? So yeah, that's the Inri stuff. That's the Inri stuff. But no, Igbo land does not start in Inri. The story of Eri and Inri is specifically the story of the Inri villages, the Aguleri, all those ones in that area, and that kind of thing. So, and then like they kind of got caught up in the Hebrew thing too. So that's so they're kind of cooked on that too. On them. The separation of spiritual path and the separation of okay, hold on, wait. I was trying to figure out why y'all kept saying normal white guy. I don't even know what that means. Can you go in depth about significance? Okay, I did that. Is separation of spiritual path and secret knowledge by clan ethnic group vital to the function of the knowledge? Certain families, clans, individuals are blessed with things that others aren't, right? Certain ones are blessed with things others aren't. Certain ones have abilities that others aren't, right? Like, for example, my people don't cleanse abominations, right? We don't cleanse abominations. Certain families can and do. Things like that. My family in my town, we do New Yams first. We're the ones that kick off New Yam Festival. Other families can't. And this applies spiritually as well. Certain people have the gift of clairvoyance that runs through their family, other people don't. So yeah, the that particular thing is vital. I don't know about ethnic groups though. I don't know about ethnic groups, like certain ethnic groups having one thing or another. I don't know about that. On the food topic, why would one be restricted from eating cassava? Urged not to eat foods cooked outside of one's house. Yeah, good questions. Does being vegan, vegetarian have significance in Odanala? No, I don't know, have any knowledge as far as like veganism, vegetarianism in Igbo land. I'm gonna go ahead and say that most foods are almost entirely vegetable, but our land actually has a severe lack of meat. There's an unusually dense amount of people living in one area, and we ate all the animals a long time ago. And so there's a lack of meat. So you're not going to find too many Igbo people being vegan because meat is a precious commodity. During Biafra, the starvation that happened during Biafra was from a lack of meat. It wasn't from a lack of food because most of our meat comes from the outside. Most of our meat comes from the outside. But as far as what you're talking about, right? So if a person becomes an nze or an ozo, that person has declared themselves a living ancestor. And in being a living ancestor, you are going to live to a T how your ancestors lived. That is how you activate that particular spirit. So our ancestors and a lot of the like, so they always talk about, oh, African history is not written down. That's a crockish. That's bullshit, right? We, for example, now I know how the ancients lived because I can just go see how an Nze and also is living today, right? So one of the things that are universal as far as the Nze also title is that you only eat foods cooked by your wife. That you only eat foods cooked by your wife. You also if you do eat foods outside or your wife approves of it, that in your obi that in your obi if anybody enters, they have to enter like backwards, I believe. Don't quote me on that one though. Just a bunch of different things. You don't wear, you dress like your ancestors. You don't wear, like, you're not going to wear this. You dress like your ancestors. You only speak your ancestral language. There's just a certain way of being once you take that title. And the reason is, if you watch my ritual video, is you are aligning yourself with a spirit, which is the spirit of your ancestors. You're very literally doing it, right? And that is why those particular titles, they do that. Another thing, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Like one of them is like, so in Alzol, you're gonna have a big elephant tusk, like a horn that you blow when you enter a new town. You blow, whoa, let people know that you've entered that town. In some communities, they would have a bell. They would walk with a bell on them, and so forth. So all that stuff, all of that is just you're aligning yourself with specifically the Igbo ancestral spirit, right? The Igbo ancestral spirit, which then takes you to Chuku, because our ancestors were living as their ancestors, and our ancestors' ancestor is the creator. Our ancestors' ancestor is the creator. So, and Ozo and Nze is aligning themselves with Chuku, is aligning themselves with Chuku. They are aligning their wife with Allah, or Nechuku. Someone says, greetings. Why do you think black people are more susceptible to certain ailments while others can eat all the crap and be healthier? I've always felt it's because we're more closer to the earth. Well, I don't, how do I put this? Uh, we're in a strange environment. We're in a strange environment. We're eating the byproducts of a strange environment. I actually think we can survive more stuff than other people. I think it's the other way around, right? Like, white people cannot be in Nigeria without shots. They'll die. You know what I mean? And there's nowhere on earth where you can't be. and you need shots to go. You understand? That's one of the reasons we were targeted during the transatlantic situation and the Arabic situation. Yeah, there's nowhere on earth you can go and you'll just die, but most other people, everybody else, they got limits to where they can go. They have limits to where they can go. So I think it's the other way around. It's just you know we're gonna get upset stomachs. We're gonna we're gonna get high blood pressure eating some bullshit. But a lot of us are outside of our environment, and being outside of our environment, we're not eating what our ancestors ate or what our ancestors have figured out is healthy. Like now, when I feed my kids based on the knowledge I have of food. My wife feeds our kids based on the knowledge she has of food. They're going to take that knowledge, they're going to distill what doesn't work from what we were doing, right? Like my parents, I grew up in the 90s, we were running that microwave daily. You know what I mean? But now we have more knowledge about microwaves and more knowledge about certain things and artificial sugars and all that stuff. And so, because with this knowledge, I'm now going to pass something on to my kids based on that. And if they're receptive, they'll pass on and pass on and pass on. So, over time, the collective ancestral consciousness and knowledge they're receiving grows and develops itself. But what if you're abruptly cut from that chain, which most of us are in that situation, right? What if you have somehow, some damn way, they convince you that whatever your ancestors were saying was the devil, right? And in order for you not to be the devil, you got to dip your black ass head in this holy water and just not do anything they were. Don't even look in that way. Oh, don't have it. You're breaking the ancestral curse. I got the ancestral curse, 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 you know. And they get now you just start eating a bunch of fucking shit. But a big part colonialism is a marketing thing, right? Colonialism is to create customers for European manufactured products. That's what it was for. You understand, right? So you can't have this belief system that says, don't eat this and don't eat that. Wait for me to tell you what not to eat and what to eat and so forth. So I can align it with my, quarterly earnings report. You understand? That was a big part of colonialism, is trying to convince you to wear weird ass clothes and eat bullshit. Oh, that clothes you're wearing, it's savage. It's savage. You're an educated man now. You need to wear a winter coat with a tie in the middle of Africa. That's what you need to do. So, yeah, bet, 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 bet. And put the stupid ass shit on and they go about their way. They do it. And that's just been the history of it. People always talk about decolonizing. It's like, yo, just stop, just fucking, just stop listening to these motherfuckers, bro. Stop listening. just stop. Like, it's like consistent history of doing the exact same thing over and over and over. Hey, that's what you think? All right, cool. You know what I mean? Yeah. So just tap out. Tapping out is the easiest part, right? Somebody, I remember that, eat the soy. We're doing a soy. It turns out soy is an endocrine disruptor and it does blow. It does it. All right. I've been alive long enough to see you guys run through this pattern of pushing something and then all of a sudden deciding it kills people. And then the commercial comes that says if you ate soy in 2002, you can get a lawsuit, blah, blah, blah. I've seen the cycle. So I'm just going to tap out. I'm just going to do what my ancestors did. I always say this to my wife, it's just if your grandmother didn't do it, just leave it alone. Don't do it. But yeah, just that persuasion. You can get persuaded like an MFer, man. And the things, it's like the Charlie Brown, sometimes I feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone. It's like the Charlie Brown thing where like Lucy pulls the ball and he goes flipping. That's just what it is. That's been history for the past 400 years, I don't mind. Where are we at? God, do you have any age yet? Hey man, I'm an ally to the 5%, man. Listen, I'm 5%, technically, Greetings. Why do you think okay, cool. But yeah, no, we're awesome. So we're just trying to eat everybody else's food. We're just trying to enthuse. I remember I gave my Caucasoid friend draw soup, man. This young man shat out his ancestors' guts, not even his own. He had a draw soup at our house when I was like 8 years old. This man shat out. This man's guts exploded that day. You understand? I don't think he's right. I don't even think he's recovered from there, right? So yeah, but he's not running around trying to eat draw soup all the damn time. It's me that's trying to eat the fucking wheat thins and the pork rinds and the fucking I don't even know what a marshmallow's made out of. Here it is, me trying to eat their BS. You know? So yeah, your ancestors for thousands of years, they had the things they ate, and they ate it for before these people existed. And here you are trying to eat Twizzlers and shit, talking about why do we keep getting sick? Yeah, it's 'cause you're eating styrofoam. I'll do them. But yeah, I don't think we're more susceptible. I actually think we're more immune to stuff than everybody else. Like I said, we can go anywhere on Earth and live. Most people come to our places, they die, like literally die. So I'll do them. Alien, please elaborate on the statements. The Asiatic black. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of know what they're talking about. It's some BS, but I like them. Uh, uh, that cassava. Yeah. So back to the question about cassava. Cassava is not ancestral. Cassava is not ancestral. And before the Biafra War, it was kind of seen as like a lesser form of uta, which is like what everybody's calling fufu. Um, but yeah, so yeah, like a titled man is not going to eat cassava. Like a person with a title does not eat cassava because our ancestors didn't eat cassava. So I didn't mind. Allegedly, they're saying it came from the Portuguese, but I don't. I don't. I'm really questioning that. It's just too widespread. It's too widespread. I don't. I think there's a lot more to that story. There's no incidents where the Portuguese didn't plant things in Africa. The Portuguese didn't have farms. They couldn't survive there. If they stayed there for 2, 3 weeks, they'd drop dead. I have 100 If you're a patron, go to my folder called colonialism. Right, go to the folder called colonialism, and just look at the different like word accounts of these people when they're going there. It's like, yo, I got 2 more days or else I'm gonna die. That kind of thing, right? So they couldn't physically live there. So why would they start growing cassava or introducing people to cassava? Oh, check this out. No, that's not what they were doing. They're buying humans. They're human trafficking. How many human traffickers have introduced you to food? It's abnormal. I question that whole Portuguese introduced cassava thing. It is foreign. Our ancestors do acknowledge it's foreign, but I question if that is what the foreignness of it is, if that makes sense, right? I think there's a little more to that story, and we might bump into something that would challenge how history is told. I think that's why we get this ridiculous. It came from the Portuguese shit. I don't think it came from the damn Portuguese. You know, and imagine someone's coming to enslave people. I'm like, hey, by the way, have you tried I don't eat this shit. I've never eat. There's not one Portuguese meal that has cassava in it, but you might like this shit. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Is there a point where a person no longer reincarnates? So most people say after eight or seven cycles. People say after 8 or 7 cycles, but I've never reached the end of the road, so I don't know. People say after 8 or 7 cycles, though. How do you find out who they were in the past life? Yeah, so Afa readings are good. One of the things you do when you're like a few days old is somebody will take your name to a DBA who does that, and they will do Afa to try to find out. Afa will tell them it's somebody on your mother's side, it's a woman on your father's side, that kind of thing. Or sometimes it'll give them like more clear clues and a clear picture of who it is. There are different tests that they use. One of the simple ones is they call the baby, before giving a baby a name, they'll call the baby different names of people who recently passed, and they'll see the one that the baby responds to consistently. But there's different ways. Now, one of the ones that people argue, and I think this is a very valid way, is like women tend to have dreams. If women are aware of reincarnation, it's very likely that they'll have dreams while they're pregnant. And once, yes, yeah, Kaba. Hey, I'm heading out. School is still for Mondays. Okay, no problem. Can you come off the door? Because I don't want to fall in. Okay, sure, no problem. All right. But yeah, what was I gonna say? Um, yeah, they have different ways of testing it, but usually through a reading. It's usually somebody who passed recently within the family. Somebody who passed recently within the family and had a normal full burial, which every American does if you're American. Cassava is very economical. I don't know if you guys have eaten like gari with or fufu, but it smells really bad. It smells really fucking bad. And it's unfortunate that of all the names that swallow has in Africa, fufu is the one that kind of becomes the popular one because then people are gonna keep going after asking for fufu, and then they're gonna have to eat this thing that a lot of I don't eat that shit, but like I feel like it's the real people from the real soil, not like JJC. They call me JJC Americana. Not Americana as like me, but like, yeah, it takes a different level of like uh, real niggadom, as they say in America, to eat. So, hey, it's all good. It's all good. I gotta go lock the door. I'll be right back, y'all. Ohio River. I'm coming. Oh, find the original name of the river too. A lot of these names have been warped. What do the natives call it? I'll be right back, y'all. Entertain each other. All right, y'all. And day well to everybody who was patient. Somehow I feel like the followers increased once I got away, but I'm probably gonna have to end this pretty soon. Hold on. I'll see if I can answer a last few set of questions while trying to keep my daughter off camera, though she's not gonna allow it. Hold on. I see that's dope. Makes sense. Hold on. Okay, you guys are arguing about cassava. All right, what am I for it? I'm from the last island of the Caribbean to be colonized, plus 50% of me, Bride of Biafra, Aldema. Y'all, I think we're gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna see if we got any more questions. I like 50 Cent, Bone Thugs, and Harmony. Yes. You have a mermaid video coming. You guys not at least probably by winter there should be one. But I already have Nemiri. So if you this is not gonna work. All right, y'all, we gotta go. As always, you guys are incredible. We are going to be starting our traditional medicine class at the end of this month. If you are interested in that, message me or go to www.kedu.me and sign up there. But yeah, we're starting at the end of the month. Um, And that's really everything. Those who are on Patreon will know what the next video is. I'm just gonna keep it to myself until I release it, but we have decided what the next video is going to be. That being said, uno gadi, uno geto, nkabala nutiri aka gadi noa, gadi otu aneke, norie, nafo, nankwo, ise, ajishikeno. Take care, y'all.